Here's the strange part. Put something in each hand and you'll tell me which one is heavier. You'll be right about a difference of a few percent. Your hands are extraordinary at this. Ask for a number and there is nothing there at all. You can compare, you can't count. Somebody fixed that for you, not recently. Hundreds of small stone cubes have been dug out of one buried city, all cut to the same handful of sizes. Then the same sizes turned up in another city, 500 miles away. One more thing before we go anywhere. Hold your finger and thumb apart to show how much a gram is. Not a gram of anything, just that much. You can't, nobody can. And it isn't because you're bad at this, it's because your unit was never a thing, it was written down, it's a definition. Theirs was a seed, they could put it in your palm and close your hand around it. So you can't feel weight and you can't picture your own units. How does anybody weigh anything at all? They don't, they cheat. You put the thing on one side of a stick, you put something else on the other, and you watch which way the stick tips. That is the entire invention. A balance doesn't measure anything. It asks one question, which side, and which side is the only question a human being can actually answer. Everything that happens after this is people arguing about what goes on the other side. That sounds small, it isn't. It took roughly 4,000 years to settle. It needed laws and inspectors and punishments to hold it together. And the very last piece of it was quietly coming apart inside a locked room while nobody on earth could prove it. We'll get there. Start with what's cheap and small and everywhere. It's seeds. A seed is a beautiful unit. It's free, it's portable, it's roughly the same as the next one, and nobody has to trust anybody because you can both see it. The word caret comes from one of them, from karation, the Greek for the carob seed. The story goes that carob seeds are famously uniform, every one of them landing on almost exactly the same mass. So a trader weighing gems against them was handed a natural standard by a tree. It's a lovely story. In 2006, a team led by Lindsay Turnbull put it on a scale and it fell apart. Carob seeds vary about as much as any other seed of their kind. The tree wasn't doing anybody a favor. Which leaves a better explanation and a stranger one. If carob seeds worked as a standard, it's because somebody sat there and threw away the ones that looked wrong. The uniformity wasn't found, it was made. By hand, by eye, by people who never wrote down that they were doing it. And once you've seen that, you start seeing it everywhere in the record. In 1266, an English statute fixes the penny at the weight of 32 wheat corns. And it specifies that the corns come from the middle of the ear, because whoever wrote that sentence already knew the ones at the ends are smaller. That is somebody solving Turnbull's problem 700 years early, in half a line, and then getting on with their day. And that seed is still in your kitchen. Since 1959, the pound has been legally defined as exactly 7,000 grains. Grain, as in barley, the unit never left, it just stopped being something you could hold. Go further back and the unit has a name you'll recognize. A shekel was a weight about 8 grams of stone, for well over 1,000 years before anybody thought to stamp a face on one and call it money. 60 shekels made a mina, 60 minas made a talent, and a talent came out around 30 kilos, which is not an accident. A talent was a load. It's what one person could carry, about what you could pick up once and then regret. And in Egypt, in the workers' village at Deir el-Medina, we have their receipts. An Egyptologist called Jansen spent years going through them. Prices are quoted in Deben of copper, about 90 grams for a coffin, a bed, a pair of sandals. But the copper very often never changed hands at all. People paid in grain, in cloth, in oil, in beer. Read that again because it's easy to skate over. They were quoting prices in the weight of a metal that wasn't in the room. Weight had stopped being a property of objects, it had become a language. Which brings us back to the cubes. They're chert, a hard, fine stone, cut into cubes small enough to sit in your palm and finished smooth. The base one weighs about 13.7 grams. And then they double, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. The 16 is the one you find everywhere, at around 220 grams, because that's the size a real market actually reaches for. They come from the Indus civilization at its height between roughly 2600 and 1900 BC. And the same cubes, running the same doubling, turn up at sites hundreds of kilometers apart. And they keep turning up in the same sizes for centuries. Sit with that for a second because your own life is the comparison. You have never checked a weight. You have never audited a scale or asked who calibrated it, or wondered whether the number on a packet is true. You outsource that a dozen times a day without noticing. Somebody had to build the thing you're outsourcing to, and in those cities they built it and held it across a distance nobody could cross in less than weeks. Here I have to be honest about what we don't know. Everywhere else, that kind of standardization comes with a state leaning on it. A palace, a treasury, an army, a king with his face on things. In the Indus cities, nobody has found the king. No obvious palace, no royal tombs, no monuments to a ruler. Some archaeologists read that as a state we simply haven't learned to recognize yet. Others read it as something genuinely stranger, a standard held for centuries by agreement instead of by force. That argument is live, and anyone who tells you it's settled is selling you something. Because a stone in a bag is only ever worth what people believe about it. 3 things had to be true before a weight could be trusted, and you can watch all 3 of them show up in the record. 1. An object hard, slow to wear, incopyable. 2. Somebody who guarantees it. Weights survive with denominations cut into them and with the mark of whoever stood behind them. 3. A punishment, and this is the one that gives the game away. In the laws of Hammurabi, nearly 4,000 years old, there's a clause about a merchant who lends by the light weight and collects by the heavy one. You don't write a law about something nobody's doing. And there's an older phrasing you may know without knowing where it's from. You shall not have in your bag 2 kinds of weights, a large and a small. Read it literally, the weights were stones. People carried them in a bag, and swapping one stone for another was so easy and so common that it needed a commandment. That's the whole machine. An object, an authority, a penalty. Every time you buy something by weight, you're standing on the far end of it and you have never once had to look down. So back to the promise from the first minute. 1795, France. The gram finally gets a definition, the mass of 1 cubic centimeter of water at the temperature of melting ice. Notice what's missing, there's no object, it's a sentence. You can follow it, measure out the water, chill it to the point where ice starts, weigh what's left. That's a recipe, it isn't a thing anybody can hand you. And when they went to build the standard, the gram turned out to be useless as a lump of metal. Too small, too easy to scratch, too hard to weigh precisely. So they made the standard 1,000 times bigger and called it the kilogram. That's why the base unit of mass in your world carries a prefix. The real unit was never manufacturable. You were never going to hold it. 1889, a cylinder of platinum and iridium under 3 glass bells outside Paris. Copies went out to every country that asked. And then slowly the copies and the original stopped agreeing. A few tens of micrograms apart across a century, about a fingerprint's worth. And nobody could say which one had changed, because that cylinder didn't measure the kilogram, it was the kilogram. If it lost mass, then the kilogram lost mass, and every scale on the planet quietly followed it down. 4,000 years of this story is people making an object and agreeing about it. That was the last object. In 2019, they let it go. Mass is now defined from a constant of nature, a fixed number, the same everywhere, forever. It can't drift, it can't be lost, and it's completely impossible to put in your hand. So you can't say what anything weighs. That's true, and it's going to stay true. But the reason isn't carelessness, and it isn't some gap in you. Every number you have ever trusted about how heavy something is came down a chain. A seed somebody culled by eye, a stone somebody cut and stamped. A cube cut to match another 1,500 miles away. A cylinder somebody locked in a vault and worried about. And you have never had to check a single link of it, not once in your whole life. Any one of them could have told you what that object weighs. Not by feel, nobody has ever had that, because somebody had already agreed with them about what goes on the other side. Pick the object back up. You still don't know what it weighs. You're not holding something you can't measure. You're holding the end of a very long argument that somebody else already won. Dimly opens one of these doors every week. Subscribe and stay curious.